Hello, CEP 200 students, and welcome to week one of the winter 2020 session of Intro to the Counseling Professions. So I know that I just uploaded a video on, I believe it was Friday, for basically the introduction or the welcome video to the course. And what I plan to do is each week for the next, 3 weeks I think we have together, 3.5 weeks, I will be updating or uploading a unit video for each of the sections. So in a normal, spring or fall 15-week course, this would be a unit video. However, this video for this course is going to include 2 units that you'll be covering. So it's the units video. Nevertheless, you should have watched the welcome video already. I hope that you've had an opportunity to do that. You should have also familiarized yourself with everything in UB Learns, such as, where you can find the unit folders and everything that goes along in those, the quizzes. Just in case this might be your first online course, I do want to mention that the drop boxes are actually in the unit folder. So when you are in the unit folder, for example, say you're looking for unit 1 assignment, when you're in the folder, you'll see unit assignment and then you will see the attachment there. So above the attachment where it says unit 1 assignment, that's actually a link. So if you click on that, it will bring you to the Dropbox for that assignment. So it should be consistent throughout the semester for that. So just in case you needed that little tidbit, that is where you will find the Dropbox for all your assignments. So you shouldn't need to email me any assignments. In addition, you should have watched the welcome video. You should have read chapter 1 of Helkowski, which is a pretty easy read. And you should have also completed discussion board number 1. If you have not done this yet, please do it. Post for yourself, and then also remember to comment on 2 of your classmates' posts. So, for this week, for this upcoming week, it starts, Unit 1 and Unit 2 start today, and the end of the unit will be Sunday the 12th. So that is this upcoming Sunday. So I'm sorry, my dog is hacking something up. For Unit 1, you are going to read Chapter 2. You are going to read the ACA Code of Ethics, which should be in the folder for you. You are going to watch The Power of Vulnerability with Brene Brown, complete the Unit 1 assignment, complete discussion board number 2, and then complete quiz number 1. So while I am going through this video, to ensure that students are watching, I am going to be announcing one of the answers to your quiz. You don't know when I'm going to say it though, so you should watch the whole video every week. And I am actually just opening this folder or the quiz right now so that I can do that momentarily. All right, so that's Unit 1. You are also going to need to complete Unit 2. So that is reading chapters 3 and 6 in Helkowski. You're going to watch the short YouTube video of what happens in mental health counseling. You're going to read 3 supplemental articles, complete the Unit 2 assignment, and then also complete discussion board number 3. So we are going to start off. Unit 1 starts off with professional orientation, the code of ethics, and connecting with the profession. So with the code of ethics, it's important to mention you are reading the American Counseling Association's code of ethics. I do want to mention that while the code of ethics are kind of universal, you might find that different sectors might have their own codes of ethics that they expect the professional to abide by. What I mean by that, I do have to abide by the American Counseling Association's Code of Ethics as they match up with the Code of Ethics for a mental health counselor. I am also a rehabilitation counselor, so I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor. CRCC also has their own Code of Ethics that they require clinicians to follow. So while the content and a lot of the content actually matches up, such as, autonomy, justice, all of that kind of stuff. So those are some components that you'll come across in the Code of Ethics. But sometimes some things might not match up. But for now, I'm not going to make you read all the other codes of ethics for the other professions. So this is like the mastery, copy thing or whatever. So we are going to read the ACA Code of Ethics. And what you will find in there are things about confidentiality, boundaries with clients. Are you allowed to go to events that they might invite you to personally? How is it appropriate to engage in a non-professional relationship with a client? Is it appropriate to engage in a sexual relationship with a client? How long do you need to wait after you've given services to have a non-professional relationship with a client? Those kinds of things. So I know it's a pretty lengthy document, but I promise you that it's easy to read. I actually just went through it the other day. It is not too much. And what I do want to, I think I have figured out which question I would like to answer for you in this video. I just want to make sure that it is on this quiz, because there are questions that students might commonly struggle with on the quizzes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut you a break and have those be the questions on the quiz that I answer for you. I'm not seeing it on this quiz, so I might have to find it on the upcoming quiz on whichever one it's on. So that's pretty much what we're going to look at for Unit 1. For Unit 2, we are going to cover clinical mental health counselors and addiction counselors. These are two of my favorite counseling professions. They are two of which I have worked in some capacity for a number of years. And I think that I favor these ones the most because, every day is going to be different, usually depending on the kind of capacity that you're working in each of these professions. For clinical mental health counselors, you'll read about what their typical duties are, the credentials in New York State to become a clinical mental health counselor. I'm not sure because the textbook, it kind of just talks generally about typically what the credentials are. But for New York State specifically, because I will say that licensing requirements vary among states. So the licensing requirements for for New York State might be different than they might be over in Massachusetts. So there's different qualifications and number of hours and education and examinations that need to be taken in order to be licensed in each state. And this is actually going to bring me to the quiz question that I'm going to give you the answer for on your quiz this week. So the question is, if you obtain a license to practice as a counselor in one particular state, you are able to automatically transfer that professional license to another state. The answer to this question is false. And the reason that it's false is because of the reasons I had just mentioned. So each state has their own different licensure regulations. So for New York State, just to give you a little bit of information, such, as if this were a lecture, in New York State, you do have to attend a college or university with a master's program that is CARCREP accredited for mental health counseling. And that might have just given you the answer to another quiz question if you're paying attention. But the CARCREP is the accrediting organization for a number of different programs. So for example, for my CRC certification, I also needed to go to a CARCREP accredited university with a master's program that was accredited by that organization. And the accreditation, basically what they do is they examine the program at the university and they look at the curriculums and the materials and the things that students are going to be learning to make sure that the curriculums line up basically with everything that someone would need to know in that profession. So basically just making sure that as a whole, the university's program is doing what they say they're doing they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that it's quality material and education to allow someone to be a really great professional in that area. So the university at Buffalo is CARCREP accredited for both their rehabilitation counseling as well as their mental health counseling programs, and probably for other programs that I'm not aware of. But for the purpose of this unit, so you would need to become a licensed clinical mental health counselor in New York State, you would need to go to a master's CARCREP accredited program and get your education piece approved. And then you would then need to complete 3,000 hours post graduation. So you would, finish up your program. You would submit the application and the fees to New York State to obtain a permit to practice under a qualified supervisor in New York State. The state has to approve that supervisor, and then you could begin your 3,000 hours. Once you complete your 3,000 hours in a program that New York State identifies as equivalent or appropriate for mental health counseling under a qualified supervisor, once you finish those 3,000 hours, you can take your licensing exam. Now, I want to be careful in the way that I said that because I caught myself. You don't have to finish your 3,000 hours and then take your exam. If you wanted to, once you got approved to function under a permit or got your education approved, you could go and take the exam whenever you wanted. The 3,000 hours usually takes about a year and a half, maybe sometimes 2 years, depending on if you change jobs or whatever. But yeah, you do need to finish 3,000 hours post-graduation under a qualified supervisor at a qualified site and pass the NC, the National Clinical Mental Health Examination. I think it's NCMHCE, something like that. So those are New York State's requirements. If someone wanted to be a licensed mental health counselor in another state, it's possible that they could go and they could apply and they would be willing to accept the New York State licensure, but there is another licensing or accrediting exam called the NCC. Some states require for you to take the National Clinical Mental Health Counselor Examination and the NCC and pass both of those to get your license. So you would just have to pay attention to what the other states would require if you were in New York State and were planning to leave and move and relocate or something like that. So I know that I kind of breezed through that and I kind of jumped all over the place, but I hope that for the most part that made sense. And if, you have interest in pursuing the national mental, or not national, but a New York State or a state mental health counseling licensure, and you want some more information about it, you can reach out to me. I can guide you to the right information and the right people. So that might be something to think about for people who are thinking about going into mental health counseling. For addiction counselors also have their own certification. This is called a CASAC. So this is a credentialed alcohol and substance abuse counselor. This functions under OASIS, and OASIS has their own qualifications. So, you have to have so many hours of education, so many hours of experience. You have to pass an exam. So what you can do is you can actually go over to the OASIS website and you can fill out or just obtain an informational packet. It will tell you, if you have an associate's or a bachelor's or a master's degree, how many hours each of those degrees can count towards your education, and that kind of thing. So it's possible to get a CASAC with only a bachelor's degree if you have ways to finish the education and stuff like that. So go ahead and go over there if you're thinking about maybe getting into addictions counseling. And I think that covers, most of the Unit 2, like as far as the careers go. You'll read in your textbook about the different settings that these professionals typically might work in, the populations they might work in, and that kind of thing. And what's really cool about your textbook is it also offers kind of like a testimony almost from a professional who has those credentials or has worked in that capacity, and it gives you an opportunity to kind of look through their eyes and how they feel about the profession. The other component of Unit 2 is discussion board number 3. You are going to watch another TED Talk already. It's only week 1, and you're going to be watching like 2 to 3 TED Talks. I wasn't kidding when I said I'm kind of obsessed. But anyways, you are going to watch a TED Talk with Dr. Kelly, and she talks about trauma-informed care. And what trauma-informed care is, the way that I like to think about it, is approaching anyone with the awareness of the fact that you have no idea what they have gone through. So, when we're working in the human services population or in the counseling professional capacity, we want to make sure that we are being sensitive to every single client that we encounter. And with that being said, we do not want to re-traumatize anyone. We don't know what they've been through. And so we want to be sensitive to absolutely everyone. So we approach everyone almost assuming that they've been through something really difficult and something potentially traumatic. And that's the best way that I like to think of trauma-informed care. So Dr. Kelly is going to go through, she's going to give you, a run through of what trauma-informed care is. She is going to talk about how trauma-informed care can affect later development, from childhood. I think she might talk a little bit about into adulthood, and why it's so important for counseling professionals to be trauma-informed. And then, at the end of the discussion board, I want to know a little bit more about what you think about, trauma-informed care. So what does it mean to you? Do you have any questions about it? And something that I do note in the course schedule is Dr. Kelly does mention the Adverse Childhood Experiences study. And if you're someone like me, I would be like, oh my God, this sounds really interesting. Let me go look more into this. But I'm asking you not to, because this is something, if you're not already familiar with it, it is something that we are going to be delving into next week. We are going to watch a TED Talk by Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, who has recently, I want to say within the last 2 months, has been elected a California Surgeon General, which is awesome because I think that she's going to bring a lot to the table in her capacity as a pediatrician doing research and with her findings in the Adverse Childhood Experiences study. So if you know what this is, that's really awesome. I know that, trauma-informed care and the ACEs studies have really kind of like kicked off within the last year or two. So I'm really grateful if that's something that you've been exposed to. But if not, I think that this is going to be something that's really going to benefit you, especially if you plan to go into the helping professions, whether it be counseling or nursing or any kind of direct care working with clients. I think that is it. So Unit 1, you're getting familiar with the counseling professions as a whole. You're going through the code of ethics. And then Unit 2, we talked a little bit about what clinical mental health counselor and addiction counselor credentialing looks like. So if you go through the material and you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Shoot me an email. I've been pretty responsive with email so far. Typically my rule of thumb when I'm teaching the spring and the fall semesters, students, is that I will have the grading done by the end of when the next unit is due. So typically, for example, all of your assignments are due on Sunday. I would like to have them graded by that following Sunday. I'm going to try and pick at them here and there throughout the week, given that I'm only teaching one session of the weekend or the winter course. So you might get your grades back, sooner rather than later. Sometimes it might take a couple days. So just bear with me. But again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Email is the best way to get a hold of me. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. The material's pretty straightforward and all of that. But again, feel free to let us know, or let me know if you have any questions. But other than that, I will see you again next week. All right, have a good week.